Chapter 1. The turbulence of the plane made my stomach churn, and I gagged. "Grace, are you okay?" The familiar voice of my best friend, Olivia White, broke through the dizziness. I snapped back to reality and turned sharply to face her. She was holding out some motion sickness pills with a concerned expression. Seeing this familiar scene, it hit me like a wave. I had been reborn, back to the same plane ride to Thailand. No need. Suppressing the surge of hatred in my heart, I refused her offer and pulled my hand away. Olivia paused, sensing the shift in my demeanor, but she reluctantly withdrew her hand. When we arrived in Thailand, we checked into our hotel. Olivia White, her excitement palpable, turned to me. "Grace, let's go parasailing. I know a great spot nearby." I caught the calculating gleam in her eyes and smirked inwardly. In my previous life, we did go parasailing, but a mishap during landing caused me to crash into a rock. My leg twisted horribly, the bones visible, and the pain was unbearable. The staff ignored their responsibility, and Olivia, rather than rushing me to the hospital, argued with them for hours, wasting precious time and delaying the treatment that could have saved me. In the end, I spent the rest of my life in a wheelchair. Now I had my suspicions. Was she planning something again? I placed my hands on my temples, pretending to feel unwell. "Olivia, I'm not feeling great right now. I don't think I can go parasailing with you." Her smile faltered, and she looked genuinely disappointed. "I've been looking forward to this for so long," she said, her voice laced with frustration. "If you don't go, it won't be any fun by myself." She watched me, expecting me to cave in like I always did. But this time, I simply closed my eyes and rubbed my forehead, ignoring her. She let out a forced laugh. "Well, let's go when you feel better." After a long silence, she left for her room, clearly disheartened. The moment the door clicked shut, I opened my eyes and quietly made my way to the balcony. I had booked a suite, and the balcony of the living room connected to Olivia's room. I overheard her voice from inside, clearly irritated. "She doesn't want to go parasailing because she's not feeling well. Our plans are ruined. I've covered my tracks well. She won't suspect anything. Paul, it's time for plan B." She and someone on the phone discussed their plan to stage an accident and take me out of the picture. I tightened my grip on my phone, my knuckles turning white. So Paul Smith was in on it too. No wonder Olivia had the means to bribe the parasailing staff. And no wonder she was quick to take control of the company after my fall in the previous life. The two people I trusted most had betrayed me, slithering around like venomous snakes waiting to strike. This time, however, I would make them pay for their treachery. Chapter 2. After freshening up, Olivia and I went to the nearby night market. "Grace, look, they have Thai clothes over there. Let's buy some," she urged, pointing to a store filled with vibrant, colorful outfits. I nodded, allowing her to pull me inside. She picked up a green Thai outfit and held it up to me. "Grace, this one would look perfect on you," she said, eyes bright. I shot her a sly half smile. "Really? Oh, so eager to take my place, aren't you?" I took the outfit and picked another at random, handing it to Olivia as we headed to the fitting rooms. Just as I was about to enter the left fitting room, Olivia rushed in ahead of me. "Grace, you take the right fitting room. After we're done, let's have a seafood feast." I smirked inwardly, pulling open the curtain of the right fitting room and stepping in. Olivia sighed in relief, unaware of my intent. She began to undress. In a flash, I slipped in behind her, and before she could react, I delivered a swift chop to her neck. Back in college, I had joined the martial arts club, even winning first prize in a regional competition. Taking Olivia out was effortless. I grabbed her phone and dragged her into the right fitting room, locking the door behind me. I waited outside for a while, listening for any sign of movement. When I heard the distinct sound of Olivia's phone unlocking, I finally made my move. I strolled back into the night market, casually tossing Olivia's phone into a corner. By now, she should be on her way to the park. I returned to the clothing store. Feigning panic, I approached the store owner. "Where's my friend? Have you seen a woman in a yellow Thai outfit? She was just in this fitting room." The owner, clearly confused, shook her head, offering a blank stare. She didn't understand a word I said. Of course not. I couldn't speak Thai. I made a scene, growing increasingly agitated, until the local police arrived. Tears streamed down my face as I used a translation app to explain that my friend was missing. They escorted me to the station to take a statement and immediately sent officers to search for her. Once the statement was given, I called Paul. He picked up right away. His voice was filled with surprise. "How are you still able to contact me?" Realizing his mistake, he quickly shut up. I pretended not to hear, crying into the phone. "Paul, what should I do? Olivia is missing. She won't answer her phone, and I can't find her anywhere. She hasn't returned to the hotel. Could something have happened to her?" "What did you say?" Paul's voice was now high-pitched. I continued with my sob story, but before I could finish, he abruptly hung up. Most likely, he rushed to save his precious Olivia. But it was too late. The park wasn't a place you could just walk in and out of. Olivia would suffer before she was rescued. Chapter 3. The next morning, I was jolted awake by a series of urgent knocks at the door. Outside stood Paul, looking like he hadn't slept a wink. It was clear he had rushed to catch the earliest flight here. He really was deeply devoted to Olivia. Without a word, he stormed in, grabbed my arm, and with bloodshot eyes demanded, "Grace Taylor, why was Olivia taken?" I let out a shaky sob and wiped away the non-existent tears. "It's my fault." After trying on clothes, I got hungry and decided to go to the night market to grab something to eat while waiting for Olivia. But when I came back, she was gone. Maybe we should go to the embassy for help. At the mention of the embassy, Paul's face flickered with brief panic, but he quickly recovered. He stopped me before I could dial the number. If the embassy intervened, their whole scheme would be exposed. After all, their deal with the park was real. They had just mistaken Olivia for someone else. We stayed in Thailand for a week, but during that time, the Thai police found nothing, and Paul kept making calls to someone, always making sure to avoid me. Then one day, he found me and with excitement in his voice said, "Grace, I've got news. Olivia is being held at the park. They want $1 million ransom. Since she was taken because of you, it's only fair that you pay the ransom." I hesitated for a moment. Our company just closed a major deal, and all our liquid funds are tied up in it. I can't come up with $1 million right now. His expression darkened immediately. "Olivia is your best friend. Are you really going to choose a project over her? I can't believe this. I really misjudged you." Paul turned to leave, but I quickly grabbed his arm, steeling myself. "It's just a project worth billions. If paying the ransom means saving Olivia, then I'll give it up." I pulled out my phone, ready to make the call. Paul immediately stopped me, his eyes gleaming with barely hidden greed. "Wait, I just remembered I have some savings. I can lend you the money to save Olivia." I couldn't help but sneer inwardly. He was trying to take everything, the money and the credit. How had I been so blind? Paul moved quickly. Within days, Olivia was released. As soon as she arrived at the hotel, she threw herself into Paul's arms. "Paul, they beat me. They broke my leg. If you had been any later, I would have died in there." Paul, eyes filled with concern, comforted her tenderly. They completely forgot I was standing right there. I cleared my throat, and Paul immediately stiffened. He pushed Olivia away and quickly explained, "Grace, please don't misunderstand. I only think of Olivia as a sister." Before I could respond, Olivia charged at me, attempting to slap me, but I caught her wrist in time. She gritted her teeth and hissed, "Grace, did you knock me out?" Feigning confusion, I replied, "What are you talking about?" Her anger erupted. "Stop pretending. You knew all along, didn't you?" "Enough," Paul snapped, cutting off her outburst. He turned to me, his voice suddenly calm. "Grace, why don't you go rest in your room? I'll take Olivia to the hospital." With that, he dragged Olivia out of the room. I watched them leave, and all I could do was laugh bitterly. Knowing Paul, he would never suspect I had figured out their plan. He'd probably think the park had turned on them to secure more profit, not realizing that the people they were dealing with were untrustworthy from the start. Chapter 4. For Olivia's health, we stayed in Thailand for another week. During this time, they continued their secretive lovey-dovey behavior, thinking they were fooling me, but I had everything recorded. When we got back home, I returned to work immediately. Sitting in my office, an all too familiar feeling washed over me. This time, No one would take what was rightfully mine. After catching up on the work that had piled up in the past 2 weeks, I had someone investigate Olivia and Paul's relationship. My intuition told me their connection ran deeper than I had imagined. The door to my office was knocked, and Olivia walked in, holding desserts. "Grace, I brought your favorite sweets," she said with a bright smile. I put down my work and sat across from her. She watched as I ate with gusto and then almost hesitantly spoke up. "Grace, I've been thinking. I want to find a job." I nodded. "I'll arrange a position for you here at the company." She immediately clung to my arm, delighted. "I want to be your company's general manager." Vijay's the minus Emma. So that was her plan. All right. I agreed without hesitation. After Olivia left, I quickly messaged my assistant Paul to come in. The proposal for sponsoring underprivileged students to attend top universities and join our company was approved last month. "We can start the publicity now." Paul looked surprised. Just last month, I had strongly opposed it, considering Olivia's pride. So why had I changed my mind? Yes, Olivia was the underprivileged student I had sponsored. When my parents were still alive, they had taken me to visit mountain villages to accumulate good deeds. The first time I met Olivia, she was being bullied by a group of children. Small and dirty, she cowered in a corner, with only her bright eyes visible. I chased the bullies away and took her to my parents. They selected her to be the recipient of our sponsorship. Every year, I visited her, bringing toys and clothes, witnessing her growth. Later, we both attended the same university and became best friends. When my parents passed away, I took over the family business. During the hardest times, she was the one who stayed by my side. So, I never once imagined that the person I trusted the most would betray me. I took out my phone and opened the surveillance footage from Olivia's house. I had given her the apartment and, after a nearby murder case, had installed a security system for her safety. In the video, she was lying against Paul's chest, drawing circles on his shirt. That bitch Grace agreed to make me her company's general manager. We're one step closer to taking over her company. I can't wait to see her fall from grace. Paul held her wandering hand. When I got engaged to her, I secured 5% of her company's shares. The rest is up to you. Then, Paul leaned down and kissed her, and the two of them began to make out. I shut off the video with a sneer. Tomorrow, when you see the news, I wonder if you'll still be able to laugh. Chapter 5: The news of Olivia, the underprivileged student I sponsored, skyrocketing to success, went viral, sparking widespread attention and causing our company's stock to soar. In an instant, years of my charitable efforts were unearthed by netizens. Grace is truly the most beautiful philanthropist. No wonder she's built such a successful career at such a young age. While I was still haggling with my parents over a packet of chips, Grace was already running a company, becoming a powerhouse. She truly deserves her success. Olivia is incredibly lucky. Without Grace, she might never have left those mountains. With the company's PR efforts, our products sold out in no time. As I listened to my assistant's report, Olivia and Paul suddenly barged into the room. "Grace, why did you expose Olivia's background without her consent? Do you have any idea how much she cried this morning?" Paul yelled at me, while Olivia stood behind him, her eyes swollen and red from crying. I gestured for my assistant to leave. Since when did my fiancé and my best friend become so close? I studied them coolly, enjoying the moment. Olivia lowered her head, her voice choking. "Grace, I ran into Paul on the way here. He's your fiancé. I would never try to steal him. I've never done anything to betray you. Why are you using me as a stepping stone?" I couldn't help but laugh. So she truly had no shame. As the company's general manager, isn't it your responsibility to contribute to the company's image? Or do you no longer want the job? I won't force you to stay. She fell silent. She had worked hard to reach this position and wasn't about to give it up easily. Paul interjected, scolding me. "Grace, you should have informed Olivia. Now that her background is exposed, how are people in the company going to see her? They'll think she got in through the back door. How can she ever establish herself here?" I sneered. "So you're implying she's not qualified for the position? If I recall, your company's stock also hit a record high this morning, right? You're reaping the rewards I brought while criticizing me." So, you want to play the hero now? Paul stiffened. It was true. His company's stock had indeed surged to an all-time high that morning, all thanks to his connection with me. Seeing the situation, he quickly shifted gears and turned to comfort Olivia. Olivia, don't blame Grace. She's thinking about the bigger picture for the company. With her backing, no one will dare to speak ill of you. Olivia nodded reluctantly, but her gaze as she left was full of resentment. In the following days, I seized the opportunity created by the buzz to hold a shareholders meeting, during which I laid out the plan for the second half of the year. At the meeting, Paul skillfully redirected most of the credit to Olivia, allowing her to bask in the limelight. Behind the scenes, Paul and Olivia continued their efforts to gain favor with the board members, their ambitions transparent. I was fully aware of their maneuvers, but I chose not to intervene. In a sense, they were doing me a favor. I'd been searching for a reason to eliminate those old foxes on the board. Chapter 6: The investigation into Olivia and Paul came back. It turned out they had known each other since middle school. At that time, Paul, as an illegitimate child of the Paul family, was sent to a small-town middle school. Coincidentally, he and Olivia were in the same class. For various reasons, they became friends, and like a romance drama, their relationship deepened in high school, becoming a couple. In college, they targeted me. Olivia became my best friend, telling Paul all my preferences, shaping him into my ideal partner, and orchestrating our encounters. They succeeded. After Paul and I got together, he used my influence to return to the Paul family and secure the company inheritance. What a scheme! I clenched the documents, wanting to expose the scumbags immediately, but it wasn't the right time. My assistant hesitated. There's something strange. The investigators found that your parents met Olivia before they died. What? I stood up abruptly. My parents died in a car accident, and the driver was executed. Could Olivia be involved? Suppressing my turbulent emotions, I knew I needed more evidence. I had to draw them out. Over the next 2 months, Olivia continued her schemes, either currying favor or manipulating people. Using her position, she leaked several projects to Paul, causing the company significant losses, but she blamed me. Everyone knew Paul was my fiancé. With Paul and some old foxes fanning the flames, the board grew dissatisfied with me. No one wanted to lose money, but it wasn't enough to topple me. I held 40% of the company's shares. Unless 90% of the board impeached me, I wouldn't fall. They knew this, so they targeted the North City bid. The North City land was crucial for a major company project, and we were determined to win it. Grace, how much are you planning to bid for the North City land? Olivia asked. I didn't answer, and she grew anxious. Grace, are you hiding it from me? This concerns our company's future. Tell me, and I can help analyze it. What if we bid lower than our competitors? I sighed. The fewer people who know the bid, the better. Don't ask. Seeing my insistence, she glared and left. That night, the company lost power. My office door opened, and a figure rummaged inside. You think I can't find out if you don't tell me? This time I'll bring you down. Olivia smugly looked at the documents in the drawer. At the bidding meeting, Paul sat beside me, speaking loudly enough for everyone to hear. Grace, the North City land is mine this time. I won't compete for the next good project. I didn't bother looking at him. Mr. Paul, we don't know who will win yet. It's too early to conclude. Paul fell silent, a meaningful smile on his face. The bidding ended, and to everyone's surprise, Paul's company won the North City land by just $1,000 more than us. Chapter 7: The room buzzed with chatter. Olivia suddenly spoke up. No wonder Paul said that to Grace earlier. She must have told him our bid. Before she could finish, she covered her mouth, as if she had said something she shouldn't have, adding to the suspicion. Everyone's gaze shifted to me, and my rival company immediately seized the opportunity. Grace, you came all this way just to lose? Your shareholders won't be happy. I kept a straight face. That's none of your concern. Back at the company, an emergency shareholders meeting was called. Many expressed their dissatisfaction. Grace, even if Paul is your fiancé, you can't sacrifice the company's interests. This company is the old chairman's legacy. We tolerated your favoritism towards Paul's company because you're her daughter. But now you've gone too far, leaking the bid. Do you even care about this company? I propose we remove Grace from her position as chairman. I agree. I second that. A large number of people supported my removal. Paul and Olivia could barely contain their joy. I rested my chin on my hand and asked the first person who proposed my removal, "If I step down, who do you suggest as the new chairman?" He answered without hesitation, "Olivia. When you betrayed the company, she secured several major projects. Her business acumen is evident. She's more suited for the position." Several others agreed. Olivia feigned humility. "Director Smith, I did what I had to, but the company belongs to Grace's parents. I can't compete with her." They spoke as if I wasn't there. I interrupted with a smirk. I didn't know stray dogs could become masters. "You." Olivia's eyes reddened, as if deeply wronged. Paul couldn't hold back, standing up to scold me. "Grace, considering how many times you've helped me, even if you're no longer chairman, our engagement won't change. Why take it out on Olivia?" I ignored him and calmly took a USB drive from my bag, plugging it into the computer. "Let's watch a good show." The projector screen lit up, showing Olivia sneaking into my office and stealing the bid documents. Seeing this, Olivia couldn't sit still and rushed to block the screen. "This is fake. Grace doctored the video. Don't believe it. She's just making excuses to shirk responsibility." The room buzzed with murmurs, some skeptical. I sneered. "If it's fake, the police will find out." Olivia immediately shouted not to call the police. If they got involved, she would be finished. But I wouldn't let her have her way. I called out, "Come in." My assistant, Paul, entered with a stack of documents and a group of police officers. Seeing this, Olivia's legs gave out, and she collapsed. The board members, all seasoned veterans, immediately understood. I had my assistant distribute the documents to everyone present. Soon many faces turned pale. These documents are evidence of embezzlement and misappropriation of funds by directors Smith, Yang, Liu, and Zhang over the years. These four were the ones Paul and Olivia had roped in. They had caused me no end of trouble, and gathering this evidence had taken considerable effort. Before they could defend themselves, the police swarmed in and arrested them all. The shareholders' meeting ended abruptly. The next day, my decisive actions spread throughout the company. Everyone was on edge, afraid of being caught in my net. Chapter 8. Grace, Olivia is your best friend. How could you do this to her? Go to the police station and bail her out. Paul barged into my office, ignoring the attempts to stop him. I looked up at him, giving him a mocking smile. Who did Olivia steal the bid documents for? He stammered. She knew the North City land was crucial for my company's listing. She acted out of concern. I laughed. Did you forget you're my fiancé? He was momentarily speechless. After he left, I recalled the events of my previous life. I never intended to win the North City land. In my past life, the government seized it later, meaning whoever bought it would lose everything they invested. This was the trap I set for Paul. This time, he was destined to lose everything, unable to list his company and sinking into debt. I instructed my assistant to buy all the vacant properties and land in South City at the lowest price. Though puzzled, he complied. A month later, 2 news stories dominated the headlines. The first was about the government seizing the North City land. The second was about the government's plan to develop South City, building schools and facilities. Suddenly, South City became a hot spot. When businessmen inquired, they found out all the land and properties had been bought. Seizing the opportunity, I announced plans to build a large shopping center and school district housing in South City. Everyone scrambled to meet me, eager to get a piece of the profitable venture. Our company's stock hit a record high, and no one voiced opposition anymore. Instead, they praised my business acumen. Whoever makes the money is king. Meanwhile, Paul's company was in dire straits, drowning in debt. When he stormed into my office, I was in a meeting. Grace, you did this on purpose. You knew about the government's plans and didn't warn me. How could you be so cruel? I raised an eyebrow. So what if I did? If you keep talking to me like this, our engagement is off. Paul panicked. His company was on the brink of bankruptcy. If he angered me, he was doomed. He quickly apologized in front of everyone. Grace, I was wrong. Please help me this time. All right. Relieved, he didn't realize my condition was to expedite our wedding. I only helped my own. He agreed without hesitation, thinking I was deeply in love with him. Chapter 9. The next day, news of our upcoming wedding spread like wildfire online. To get the money quickly, Paul set the date for the following Saturday. I took an invitation to the police station. Since the trial hadn't started, Olivia was still in the detention center. Paul and I are getting married next Saturday. Too bad you can't attend. I handed her the invitation, which featured our wedding photo. She stared at it in disbelief, muttering that it couldn't be true. Then she laughed. Did you know Paul and I had a relationship? Even after your engagement, we continued our affair right under your nose. She looked at me, expecting to see shock and anger, but I kept smiling. Paul confessed to me. I was angry at first, but I love him. He promised to be faithful to me from now on, and I believe him. Olivia's eyes turned red with rage. He won't betray me. Never. I didn't respond, instead talking about how well Paul had treated me, showing off my large diamond ring. Finally, she broke down, sobbing. Olivia, do you regret it? For a man who only cares about profit, you ended up in jail. Was it worth it? You gave everything for him, but he moved on without a second thought. I whispered in her ear, fueling her hatred. She glared at me with venom. Grace, do you know why I hate you? Because you had everything. You flaunted your wealth in front of me. Do you know how jealous I was? Why are there such disparities in life? The older I got, the more I resented it. I vowed to take everything from you, to make you feel the helplessness of living in the mud. She took a deep breath and continued. Let's make a deal. Get me out, and I'll tell you something important. Your parents' deaths weren't an accident. Though I had prepared myself, hearing the truth still ignited my fury. My parents had died in a conspiracy. To better replace me, Paul had bribed the driver to kill my parents, and Olivia had helped cover it up, staying by my side to protect him if anything went wrong. How dare they? My veins bulged with anger, but I couldn't let my hands be stained with blood. Calming down, I continued with my plan, constantly provoking Olivia, deepening her resentment towards Paul. Chapter 10. Leaving the police station, I instructed my assistant to write a letter of understanding on my wedding day, bailing Olivia out, and to have her followed. She immediately went to see Paul, but was turned away. Paul didn't want to see her, fearing she would ruin his wedding. He planned to explain later. But Olivia crashed the wedding, halting the ceremony. Olivia, stop causing trouble. Today is my and Grace's big day. Do you really want to ruin it? Paul tried to placate me, thinking only of saving his company. Olivia's eyes filled with pain. Why did you betray me? You promised to marry me. Paul panicked. You're lying. I never said that. He turned to me, trying to explain, not noticing Olivia charging at him with a knife. When the knife plunged into his body, he looked at her in disbelief. Why? Olivia's voice was filled with hatred. You ruined my life. You won't get away with it. She stabbed him repeatedly. The scene descended into chaos, guests fleeing, and security cautiously restraining Olivia. By the time the ambulance arrived, Paul was dead. Olivia was taken to the police station. I presented the evidence of their crimes, including their plot to sell me in Thailand and the murder of my parents. Olivia was sentenced to death for multiple crimes. The case caused a huge uproar online. How could someone be so evil? Grace is so unlucky to have such a best friend and fiancé. Poor her. They must have been crazy for money, even resorting to murder. They didn't even spare her parents. I'm so angry. Can we dig up their bodies and whip them? Or tell me where their graves are so I can dance on them? Count me in. Netizens flooded our company's social media with messages of support. The publicity boosted our products again. Paul's company declared bankruptcy. I posted on social media. I won't stop helping others because of Olivia. I'll continue to support underprivileged children. I believe doing good brings rewards, and bad deeds bring punishment. I'll do my best to spread love and warmth. The post went viral, with netizens asking for donation channels to contribute. Many online donation channels are scams, so I established a charity foundation, receiving numerous donations. The beauty of this world lies in the cycle of love, the transmission of kindness, and the return of goodwill, ensuring everyone in need is treated with compassion. All donations and my income went towards building schools in mountainous areas, helping children escape poverty. The future is bright, always warm and full of light. With small acts of kindness, we can bring warmth to the world.